Hello team and welcome back to the channel, and we are very soon hitting the 1 lakh subscribers, which is a huge milestone, and I really thank you for all the support, and you keep supporting. I'll keep making real-time videos like the one that I'm making right now. Okay, so before we start, I would request you make sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and you will find tons of amazing hands-on videos on DevOps as well as on cloud DevOps in real-time scenarios. Okay, and I would really urge you to watch out my recent videos, amazing videos I have created. Okay, talking about today's video, so today we are going to create an amazing project. We are going to work with a microservice based project where we are having around 11 microservice component. Each one will be building separately, okay, and each will be automated completely. That means if I push any changes to my GitHub specific branch that is containing the source code for specific microservice component, if I push any changes to that, automatically the pipeline will be triggered. If I try to show you here, you can see these are multiple pipelines, multi-branch pipeline I have created, which is also completely automated. So if I push any kind of changes in the repository, it will trigger the pipelines. Okay, so make sure to watch this video till end, because this I really want everyone to understand this, how in real time things work. Okay, how do we build the real-time microservice component, a microservice project, and how do we automate it? Okay, and I really want you all to understand and learn more and more things. And yeah, so with that being said, let's get started, team. Also team, just make sure to keep supporting. You can like the video if you found this useful. Okay, and yeah, so with that being said, let's get started. So team, before we start with the implementation, let me explain you the whole architecture of this project so that you can understand how this microservices based project are working. Okay, so yeah, let me explain you first in a proper way through diagrammatic structure so that it is very clear. Okay, so let's say we have a project. Okay, and it has multiple sections in this project. For example, let's say we have a e-commerce website. Okay, so in our e-commerce website, there will be some section which is responsible for sending email notification when someone pays something or someone buys something from the website, right? So there will be one section that is responsible for this. There will be one section that is responsible for cart service. Okay, basically when we are going to add the products in the cart, where exactly they are going to go and where they are going to get stored. Okay, similarly we may have a component like shipping address, shipping, so if you want to buy something, we need to put address and all those things where they are going to be managed, so that will be separate section. So similarly like this, we are going to have a front end also, front end UI for the application, all the things will be visible on that section. Okay, so similar to this, we are going to have around total 11 separate microservices, small components. Okay, now I'll also explain why we need to have a microservice component and how it is beneficial. Okay, so let's say, let me create multiple microservice component with name. Okay, 3 4 5 let's say 6 and 7 and 8. Let's say in total we have around 11. Okay, now let's say one time I have built all these components separately and I have deployed on the cluster. Okay, for now we are going to use EKS cluster. Okay, and application is up and running, right? Let's say this is my website. Okay, and all these 11 sections, 11 microservices that we have, each one is separate section. Okay, separate component of the application. Okay, one is cart service, one is shipping, one is front end, so and so. Okay, next time, let's say I just want to modify, let's say microservice 3 is email service. Okay, let's say next time I just want to modify or add some feature in this component. I want to modify the way that email is going to be sent. Okay, that means I need to modify the source code that is handling this part, correct? So next time, you know what I can do? I can modify the code, I can build this, and I can deploy just this section. That means I can independently deploy this section of the whole project, and it's not going to affect other components. That is the best part. You can choose any one component where you want to add feature or make some changes. You can build that and you can deploy directly to the production level, production deployed application, and it's not going to affect other components. That is the best part, because independently you can build any of the components and you can deploy them without causing any effect. Okay, so that is one of the main reasons that we are having microservice, so that any specific section of the project we can change without affecting other sections. Okay, now as I mentioned, we are going to completely automate it. So how we are going to do that? So first of all, there are going to be 12 pipelines. Okay. Now creating 12 pipelines, it's going to be a little hectic, obviously. So for that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to use Jenkins file. Okay. And I'm going to create a multi-branch pipeline. Okay. Now having multi-branch pipeline, what it's going to do, in each of the branches, I'm going to create a Jenkins file. Okay. First of all, do not worry anything, because everything we are going to do implementation. So it will be very much clear. Okay. So for each of the branch, we are going to put a Jenkins file inside it, and using that we can create a multi-branch pipeline in our Jenkins. Okay. Now talking about automation, right? So in multi-branch pipeline, we have a feature known as multi-branch webhook trigger. So once we configure it correctly, then what will happen, anytime if I make any changes in, let's say, this component, this microservice component, automatically it will trigger the build pipeline, and then we can deploy the changes directly without causing any effect to other components. Okay. That is the main thing. Like just by pushing the source code, we can trigger the pipeline. Automatically the pipeline will be triggered, and application, the section, the microservice, specific microservice component will be built immediately. Okay. So this is what we are going to do, and to see it in live, how we are going to set up, let me do it everything from scratch. Okay. So let's start. Let me keep my pen tab elsewhere so that I can start now. Okay. Okay. So let me show you the application as well so that you can understand it clearly. So this is the service, microservice. As of now, it's private. I'll make it public for you people so that you can use it. Okay, but make sure you implement it completely and correctly, and make sure to tag me also on LinkedIn if you like want to push it. I'll be happy to see that, and I'm happy to support you. Okay, now you can see in total we have 13 branches, correct? Each of these branches, you can see each of these branch is a separate microservice component of a project. Like this is going to handle email section, this is going to handle the front end, this is going to handle the payment section. Okay, so similarly, like we have multiple things. Okay, in addition to that, we have two more branches, which is infra setup. So infra setup, this branch contains the source code for setting up where is it, sorry about that. Infra setup branch, it contains the steps to set up EKS cluster on our Amazon account. Okay, all steps you will be able to find it, and don't worry, I'll just walk you through in total. Okay, and one more branch that we have is main branch, which contains the actual code YAML file which we are going to use to deploy the application to EKS cluster. Okay, so yeah, and as I say, completely automation will be there now. So make sure that you can like fork it, or you can directly use this branch also, this repository also. Okay, but yeah, team, please make sure to give it a star so that it stays on top. Okay, now first thing that you need to do, you need to go to your AWS account and make sure the region that you have chosen, it's the region nearest to you. Okay, secondly, you can click on EC2 and let us create EC2 instance. Before that, let me show you the security ports, the ports that I have opened on my security group. So primary security group I'm using. If I open this in inbound rules, I have opened these ports. Generally, like these two won't be needed for you, but generally since I use it on regular basis, so that's why these are open. Okay, but yeah, I would suggest to open these many ports. If you open this, will be really useful, because these are some ports that will be used on regular basis everywhere. Okay, so maybe you can take a screenshot and you can make sure that these ports are open. Okay, coming back to our EC2 dashboard, and now let us create a virtual machine. Okay, so I'm going to give this virtual machine name as server. It will be an Ubuntu machine of version Ubuntu 20.04 LTS version. LTS, it's like kind of stable, so I like to use that. Okay, scrolling down, instance type. So it is the same server where we are going to set up our Jenkins also. So I want to make it little bit big. That's why I'm going to go with 8 GB of RAM. Okay, scrolling down to key pair. And this is the key that is already available on my system, so I will use it. In case if you are doing this for the first time, you can click on create new key pair, and you can create a new key and use that. Okay, just to show you one time, you can just provide a name, make sure it is RSA, and make sure its private key format is PEM file. Okay, scrolling down, so security group, the one that I just showed you, that's the one that I'm going to select, and storage I'm going to give 25. Okay, click on launch instance, and this instance will be getting created, and this will take few seconds to get created. Okay, meanwhile, make sure that you have 𝗭𝗏𝗃𝗦𝗃𝗀. It is the one of the best application to access any kind of virtual machine. Okay, so make sure that you have installed it. It is available for free. You can just go on Google, search for 𝗭𝗏𝗃𝗀 and download it. Okay, now let's wait for our machine to stay up so that we can connect to it. And as we can see the status, it is in running status, right? So first thing that I'm going to do is copy the public IP address, go on mobile desktop, click on session, click on SSH because we are going to connect to our virtual machine through SSH. Click on remote host, paste the public IP address, and since we have created an Ubuntu machine, so we are going to put the name as Ubuntu. Then advanced SSH settings. Here we are going to connect to Ubuntu machine using SSH private key. Okay, so for that we can click on this use private key, click on browse, and you can just go to the location where you have stored your PEM file of the private key. Okay, so this is my PEM file. I'll click on that and click on open, click on OK. And yeah, you can see it is now up and running. Let me just rename it. I'll rename this to server, and tab I'll just put it as something like maybe this one. Okay, click OK, and let me just open it again. Okay, now it's fine. We are on this machine, right? Let me increase the font also so that it is visible to you. Okay, now you know team, whenever you create a virtual machine, the first command that you are supposed to run is sudo apt update. What it does is basically updates all the packages that are available in the default Linux repository, so that next time if you want to install any kind of tools like Unzip, Jenkins or anything from the default repository, you can directly add them and they will be available for usage. Okay, so I have run that command. Now first thing, we need to set up our EKS cluster, correct? That means we need to make sure that from this virtual machine we are able to connect to our AWS account. Okay, so for that, first of all, what we need to do, we need to go to services, and here you will find IAM. If not, you can just simply type here as IAM. Okay, it is like identity access management. So we will open this. We need to make sure we have created a user. Okay, let me show you the user that I have created, user EKS user. Okay, now once you create EKS user, you need to make sure it has certain policies added. Okay, 1 second, let me remove this policy. This is not required actually. Okay, so these policies that you see in total, I think 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 policies that you see here, they needs to be attached to your EKS user. Okay, you can just take a screenshot as well. You will able to find this information in our infra steps branch. Okay, if I open setup infra MD, you'll be able to see these are the policies you need to attach to the EKS user, and one more policy that you need to attach, whose JSON file you'll be able to find here. Okay, so these policies we need to make sure that we have attached them. In case for those who are not able to understand like how we are going to add the JSON file, you can simply click on add permissions, create inline policy. Okay, click on JSON, remove in here, remove everything, and simply copy this part and save it, and you just need to give it a name. Okay, so since I already have that, so I'm not going to do it again. Okay, so this is good. Coming to next, so next thing that you need to make sure that you are clicking on the security credentials, clicking on access keys, and you need to click on create access key. You can create 2 access keys. You need to create this because this is the key that is going to be used for authentication from your virtual machine to the AWS account, so that we can create the EKS cluster. Okay, so you can create, and once you create, you'll be able to download it in the Excel format on your local. Okay, so let me show you. If I go here, downloads, you can see this file. Okay, so this is going to be the secret credentials that we are going to use for authentication from our virtual machine to the AWS account. Okay, access key add in, secret access key. I'll show you how you can use it. Okay, so once you have created and once you have downloaded, then it's fine. We can move to next step. Next step, basically what we need to do, we need to set up certain CLIs. Okay, 3 CLIs we need to install. First, we need to install AWS CLI, using which we are going to connect to AWS account. Second, we are going to set up kubectl, using which we are going to communicate with Kubernetes cluster. Third, we are going to set up EKS-CTL. EKS-CTL is the one that we are going to use to create the EKS cluster. Okay, so all 3 we need to install, and you can get the commands for all those here. You can see AWS CLI, kubectl, and EKS-CTL. Okay, so one by one, what I'm going to do, because there are multiple lines of command, right? I don't want to run them each one by one, so I'm going to create first a folder. Let's provide the name as scripts. Okay, and let us go inside scripts, and now I'm going to create one script named 1.sh. Okay, and we are going to paste certain commands here, the one that we have, right? So first command will be from here to here, AWS configure do not copy as of now, because in one go we are going to install all the these CLIs. Okay, so first we are going to copy this, go here, paste it here. Okay, press enter, and second we are going to copy from here to here, copy that as well and paste it here. Okay, third thing that we are going to install is EKS CTL. As I mentioned, this is going to be used for installation of EKS cluster. Okay, so copy that as well and paste it here. Okay, once you have pasted it, simply press escape :WQ. This will save the file. Okay, now we have this script ready. If I run ls, you can see script is there, but we need to execute it. Okay, but as of now this file is not in executable format. So how do we make it in executable format? For that we can type sudo chmod +x, means we are like giving it permission to get executed. Okay, then script name, which is 1.sh, click enter. Now if I run ls, you can see the color has been changed. This means that it is now executable file. To execute it, we can simply type ./1.sh, click enter. And this will take few minutes because we have multiple commands to run, right? So once these three commands are run, then we are going to run this command AWS configure, so that we can configure these credentials that we have in our virtual machine so that we can connect to our AWS account, right? So let's wait for this to complete. And I think, yeah, you can see all the things are installed. Now we have kubectl installed, we have EKSCTL installed, we have AWS CLI installed. So now we can run the command AWS configure. Okay, now you can see it is asking for access key ID, which I have here, correct? Copy that and we can paste it here. Secret access key, that also we have on our local. You can copy that and paste it here, right? Now it is asking for default region. As I mentioned, you should select the region that is nearer to you. In my case, if I go here, you can see also team, remember that when you are creating anything in IAM, it's going to be on global level. Okay, if I go to EC2 Mumbai, so for Mumbai we have the code AP-South-1, correct? So that's what I'm going to type here, AP-South-1, click enter. And for this we don't need to put anything like the output format. Okay, so now basically what just happened, we are now connected to our AWS account, and now we can like run any command if you want to perform that on the Amazon account. Okay, so this first step is done. Now next step what we have, so next step we can start creation of EKS cluster. Okay, now these are the commands that you need to run. So I'll copy from here to here. You can see certain things. Region AP-South-1, this is like my region. You can select it as per your own. Zones, two zones I have selected, AP-South-1A, AP-South-1B. Okay, so these are like the as per your own region, you can select this, and we are creating it without node group because we are going to create node group afterward with certain our own configuration along with the auto scaling also for the nodes. Okay, and make sure that you can like select the name that whatever you want here, EKS1. I'm creating a cluster with the name EKS1. I'll copy this and we'll paste it here and click enter. Now it's going to use CloudFormation to create the cluster, and this will take quite some time, like maybe 8 to 10 minutes it will take. So just be patient and wait for it to complete. Okay, and I'll be back once this part is completed. So team, this first section has been completed, and let us run the command for second section, which is to set up the IAM OIDC provider. Okay, basically it's short for IAM OpenID Connect. Basically, why do we have it and why do we need to associate this with our EKS cluster? So that the service account that we are going to create within the EKS cluster can assume the IAM rules. So sometimes, you know, while working with EKS, we might be needing to create some certain resources from our AWS, right? So for that, these IAM rules are needed so that that can be done. Also, the pods that we are going to create, so they can also assume roles with minimum privilege. Okay, and they can also, if needed, they can also work with AWS resources. Okay, so I'm going to copy this command and let us run this. And okay, this won't take much time. Okay, so this is done. Next step is to create the node group. Okay, now before we run this command, let me explain you how we are like doing the auto scaling enable. So first we have like creating node group, cluster we are defining, region we are defining, and node name we are defining, right? And node type, T3 medium I'm going to use. Now here you see this nodes equal to 3. That means there are 3 worker nodes that are going to be created, okay? And out of these 3 worker node, if there is no, like if a third node is not being used much, this node group will scale down the number of worker nodes to 2. That means at a time minimum 2 worker node needs to be up and running, okay? If like we have like 3 worker node are there and 3 are completely occupied, we need to still create more pods. In that case, automatically number of pods will be increased to 4. Maximum 4 we can have, and 4th will be created when it is required. That means minimum it can go down to 2 worker node, maximum it can go down to 4 worker node, depending on the requirement. And this is how auto scaling will be done, okay? Secondly, we are also using node volume as size 20 GB, okay? And how we are going to access this? So this we are for that we are using SSH access, okay? Now here we need to you need to provide the public key that you have. So if I go back to here, so you know, in key pairs I have created this key pair, right? This is the name, and this is the same thing that is going to be used for the communications, okay, for the SSH access, okay? So yeah, this is what we are going to do. And now let me run this command as well, and this will also take few minutes, so we'll just wait for this to complete, okay? Let me check everything. Name is correct, region correct, and so key is correct, okay? Click enter, and this will start. And as you can see here, first of all we are going to use version 1.29. We should be able to see the similar thing. If I go here, let us type EKS, and let us see if cluster is created or not. And you can see Kubernetes cluster is created, and we have set up 1.29 version, okay, which is actually at this point which is the latest, okay? Now yeah, so again this will take few minutes, so let's wait for this, and I'll be back once this is completed. Okay team, yeah, just to let you know, here like I need to set up Jenkins on this virtual machine, okay? I can set up Jenkins on other server also, but just to save resources we can set up Jenkins here itself, okay? So the prerequisite for Jenkins is that you should be having Java. So when I ran Java command, we got the information that Java is not available, but we got the multiple versions of Java that are available for installation, out of which I selected the JDK version 17, okay? So once I selected JDK version 17, I can install it just by putting -y so that no prompt comes, okay? One thing that you need to remember, do not go with JDK 11 because it's kind of getting depreciating, so slowly. And if you set up JDK 11, you will get a lot of warnings in your Jenkins, okay? So once I ran this command, which is to install, you can get this command by directly just type Java and you will get all these commands. So initially I installed JDK, right? JDK 17 I'm installing. After that we need to install Jenkins, right? So for installing Jenkins, let's wait for a few minutes. Okay. So for installing Jenkins, what you need to do, you need to go on like Google, just type install Jenkins. This page will open. This is the official page, and on left side you will see this option, installing Jenkins. So wherever, in whatever way you want to install Jenkins, you can just get the commands here. For me, Linux, I have Ubuntu machine, right? Click on Ubuntu, and I'm going to set up long-term support release, right? So I can copy these commands and I can run them, right? So you can see like there are multiple lines of command which I don't want to run one by one. It's kind of hectic. So what did I do? I just created a script named gen.sh. If I view that file, you can see I just copy pasted the command. Which command? This command. I have just copy and pasted it, and I have made that file executable by running the command sudo chmod +x Jenkins, right? Once the file becomes executable, I can simply execute the file by running the command /gen.sh, right? Once you run it, then Jenkins will be installed automatically on default port, which is 8080, okay? Now to access Jenkins, you can just simply put the public IP address of the virtual machine wherever you are running the command and colon, and after that port 8080. After that, you can see two options you will be able to see: install suggested plugins and select plugins to install. By default, just go with install suggested plugins because Jenkins knows better which plugins are mandatory for it to work well, okay? So we'll click on this, and this will take quite some time depending on your network as well as your virtual machine size also, right? So meanwhile, what we can do, we can set up Docker on our virtual machine, because we are going to run Docker commands as well. So I'm going to type Docker, and you can see Docker not available, but we got the command to install Docker, right? Copy that -y and press enter, right? This will install Docker, but by default when you install Docker, like other than root users, nobody has permission to execute Docker commands. So what do we do in that case? So we need to make sure that we can like give permissions to other users as well. So for that, what we can do, we can execute this command, sudo chmod 666. We are giving permission to this file docker.sock, and once we change the permissions, then other users then like Ubuntu will also be having permission to execute Docker commands. Click enter, and this is done, right? So like permission is done, right? And coming back to our Jenkins, so yeah, this will take few minutes, and let's wait for this. Once this is completed, then we are going to configure our project repository to Jenkins, and then we are going to get started by writing the pipelines. Okay, so team, once like Jenkins is set up, you need to create the first admin user. Okay, so let us create a username with my own name. Password will also be same, and in full name you can put your name, and in email address you can put anything. Okay, so as you can see, I have just put abc@xyz.com. Click on save and continue, and your Jenkins is set up. Okay, now in order to make sure that we are able to create pipelines and everything, we are going to install certain plugins. Okay, for that we are going to go to manage Jenkins and go to plugins, and here go to available plugins, and here we are going to install certain plugins. First, search for Docker, select this one and select Docker pipeline. After that, search for Kubernetes. So for Kubernetes, we are going to install this one, and we are going to install this one, because rest these things will be installed automatically because they are dependent on these two plugins. Okay, so click on install, and we can check the progress here, and you can see multiple plugins are getting installed, even this credentials, client API, because they are dependent on because these two plugins are dependent on these also. So for working of them, these also required, so they are getting installed. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete, and once this is done, then we are going to connect to our GitHub account, this specific repository which has multiple branches, and we are going to create one pipeline for each branch. Okay, meanwhile, yeah, this is done, right? So quickly go to manage Jenkins, go to tools is the section where we configure plugins. Okay, so scroll down to Docker installation. Okay, here let us configure Docker, put name as Docker, and install automatically. We are going to select official page, and we are going to set up latest one. Click on OK. Right, now this part is fine. Next part is that we need to connect to our GitHub repository and create the pipelines. Now, as I said, there are around 11 microservice components, right? You can see these ones. So for each of them, writing separate pipelines is not very easy, right? So what we are going to do, let me show you. If I open this component, add service, and you can see I have added one Jenkins file. What this Jenkins file contains? So this file contains a Jenkins pipeline. Okay, stages, talking about stages. So I have written like credential ID and tool name Docker that we configured, and the command to build the Docker image. Okay, now if you want to use this repository, the only thing that you need to take care of is like make sure the credential that you create for Docker is with the credential ID, this one, and tool name you configure as Docker. Okay, and then you don't need to do anything. Okay, so let me show you something else also. For creating credentials, Docker create. So I'll just copy this name, go to Jenkins, manage Jenkins, scroll down to credentials, global, add credentials. Okay, so let us create our we are creating the credential for our Docker Hub repository. Okay, so username is going to be this one, password it's going to be, I can't tell, it's secret. Okay, and in ID, make sure that you are putting the name that I created if you don't want to create your own Jenkins pipeline. Okay, now let me coming back to here. So this is for like add service branch. Okay, two steps we having. First, we are building and tagging our Docker image. Secondly, we are pushing our Docker image to Docker Hub repository. If I go to any other branch like checkout service, here also it's going to be same. The one thing that is going to be changing is the name of the Docker image. For each component, we are changing the name to whatever the branch is, okay, whatever the component is. Okay, so just make sure that the credential that you are adding for GitHub is having the credential ID, this one, and tool that you configure is having the name Docker. Okay, and same thing I have done for other branches also. The only thing that I needed to change is this one, the name of the Docker image, right? And for each of them, each of these branches is having its own Jenkins pipeline for building the Docker image and pushing it, and before pushing we are tagging it also. Okay, now coming back here, so we need to add credential for GitHub also, because it is private as of now, you can see, right? So you can generate your GitHub token. You can click on your profile, scroll down to settings, and scroll down to developer settings. And don't worry, I'll make this project as public, so you don't need to worry about that. Tokens, and you can see I have created a token. If you want, you can click on create token, classic token you can create. Okay, coming back here, so let us now we want to create a pipeline, right? And not just pipeline, we are going to create a multi-branch pipeline, so that automatically a one pipeline for each of these branches can be created. Okay, how do we do that? First of all, go here, let us configure the credential for GitHub. So let me type it, username 246, and in password we need to put the token, and token is this one for me. For you can generate separate, or you can just go with the public. Okay, and ID, so ID I can put as get cred. Same thing I'll just put in description as well. Okay, click on create. So now these two things we are having, right? Next up, what we can do, we can create a multi-branch pipeline. Okay, so I'm going to provide the name as Microservice e-commerce. It's a e-commerce website, right? Let me just, yeah, so this is fine. And here, instead of choosing pipeline, we are going to choose multi-branch pipeline. Click on OK. Now branch sources, so we need to configure Git here. Select Git and provide the project repository. In our case, it's going to be copy URL, paste it here, credential we have for git cred, right? Now all branches should be getting the same properties, no issues. And here with what kind of configuration, it should be scanning the branches. So each of the branch of a specific microservice, each one is having one common file, which is Jenkins file, and Jenkins file is the one that is going to be scanned. So in each branch, it is good, Jenkins is going to look for this file. So whichever branch is having this file, it's going to create a job for them, right? Now before I set everything up, here you can see scan multi-branch pipeline trigger. That means there is no trigger configured as of now. Okay, when I say there is no trigger configured, that means I want to automate everything, right? So for that I need to configure trigger, but here we cannot do that. So let me explain you what we are going to do. Go to dashboard, go to manage Jenkins, go to plugins, go to available plugins, and here search for scan multi-branch multi-branch. You can see this multi-branch scan webhook trigger. Okay, so select this and click on install. Once this is installed, then there will be an option automatically available here. Okay, but we need to refresh the page. Let me refresh. Let me reload just. Let's wait for this to complete. Okay, so this is complete. Again, if I put here the branch sources that we have, this is the project, right? Credential we have git cred, scroll down, and this is fine. Jenkins file is fine. And here you can see now we have new option, scan by webhook trigger, right? Select that, trigger token. So any name you can put here. I'm just going to put as Aditya and click on this question mark, right? Now here to here, make sure that you copy. Okay, copy and paste it somewhere safe. Okay, now let us configure this. First, token what we have given, token name is Aditya, as you just saw, right? We have configured here Aditya, correct? Secondary, here we need to put the Jenkins URL. So in our case, Jenkins URL is going to be till 8080. So I'll copy that and let me paste it here. Make sure extra slash is removed. Okay, now this is done. So just copy this whole thing and go to here, settings, webhooks, right? Now here we need to configure webhook. So click on add webhook. Payload URL will be the one that you just saw, right? Content type will be JSON. And here make sure that you are selecting the push event, because there are individual events also, but they are a little bit confusing, and mostly we are going to go with just push event, right? Now before we before we save this or add this webhook, we need to make sure that this is also saved. So I'll click on apply, and here click on add webhook. Now in a minute you can see it says the hook has never been triggered, but it is in pending status. Let me refresh the page. You can see last delivery was successful. That means from our GitHub account and GitHub repository, we are able to trigger the pipelines here. Now if I go here, you can see automatically 11 pipelines are created for each of the microservice component, right? And this is like little bit very much easier, right? It's easier. So one by one, each of this pipeline will build the Docker image, push it to Docker Hub repository, right? But the magic of the webhook will show you once everything is done. Okay, so this will take quite some time, because at the same time we have triggered all of them automatically, so we need to wait for some time. And once this is done, then I'll show you how we are going to create this CD pipeline and how we are going to automate that as well. Okay, so let's wait for this to complete, and yeah, then we'll be back. So team, yeah, you can see pipelines have been ran, out of which I think one pipeline was failure, right? So let us check out the error. If I scroll down, we can see something with respect to Java no such file exception. Okay, let's do one thing. So what I'm going to do, already we have configured webhook, right? So let us try to rerun this again, because I believe Docker tool might be having some issues while installation. Okay, so let me just try it again, and this was for shipping service. So we can go to this branch, shipping service branch. Okay, through this we can also check the functionality if our webhook is working or not, right? So I'll open this, click on this, edit this file, and just put a space or anything you can put, just to make like commit changes. So I'll commit the changes, and let's see what happens. So here if I go, you can see automatically there is a pipeline got triggered. If I open shipping service, you can see this pipeline getting started. Why? Because we just made some changes into the branch, right? So let us see the progress. Okay, now you can see now it has started to work now. Fine, right? So let's wait for this to complete. Meanwhile, this is getting completed. You can see now what will happen. Like if I push changes to any of these specific branches, let's say I want to make changes or add some feature to payment service, right? In that case, I need to just add the source code or change the source code inside the payment service branch, and that will automatically trigger this pipeline, which will build the new Docker image, right? Now this whole thing, it's doing CI, correct? Now talking about CI is done. Now let's talk about CD, correct? So for CD, first of all, as you know, I have always said that we should be, for security purpose, we have the RBAC option, right? Role-based access control. So for that, what we are going to do, we are going to set up a service account, create a separate role, assign that role to the service account, okay? And then we can perform the deployments through that service account. That will be the best option, okay? Now, creating service account, how we can get these steps? So for that, again, you can go to Infra steps. One second, Microservice Infra, okay? Scroll down and you will be able to see the steps. So first we have to create a service account. For that, you can just copy this. Okay, and here let us create svc.yaml, okay, and let us paste it here. You can see we are creating a service account with the name Jenkins, okay, and I want to create this inside our namespace web apps, because we want to deploy our application inside a separate namespace for isolation, okay. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to save this. Now we have not yet created a namespace, right? So let us create a namespace directly, kubectl create namespace, and the name will be web apps, right? Now this is done. Now we can execute the command to set up the service account, kubectl apply-f svc, right? Now automatically the service account is created inside web apps namespace, right? service account is done. Second option that we have is to create a role, right? So creating role, I can copy these commands. Again, let us create a file, name will be role.yaml, and paste the commands here. Now here, if you look closely, we are creating a role that will give permission on these resources defined here. And what kind of permission? Get permission, list, watch, create, update, patch, delete, right? So this is fine. We will save this file again, and we are going to perform the deployment. 𝗘𝗲𝗃𝗏 apply-f role. One thing you should remember, that I said ki these things that we are creating, they are supposed to be created inside a namespace web apps, right? So in most cases you will see that there is a namespace mentioned. Okay, in case namespace is not mentioned, then manually you can do that. You can simply type -m name web apps, right? That will also work fine. That will make sure that the resource that you are trying to create is getting created inside a web namespace named web apps. Okay, but for now, for role, it is already mentioned, right? Click enter. Now role is also created. Now we have created service account, we have created role. Now what I'm going to do is assign this role to this service account. So this Jenkins service account will be having these permissions. Okay, for that we have this option, this YAML binding. Okay, so I will copy this and let us create a file, vi bind.yaml, and let us paste it here. Okay, make sure you can see here also namespace mentioned, so we don't need to worry about that, and rest everything is fine. So let us save this. Okay, and I'll apply this 𝗘𝗲𝗃𝗏 apply-f bind, right? Now role is binded to the service account. This is fine. Next step is that we need to service account is created, service account is having permissions now. But in order to use the service account for deployment, we need to create a token for the service account, which will be used as authentication. For that, you can simply click on this generate token. You have this link, click on that. This will take you to the official page of Kubernetes, and we have this YAML file which is going to help us to create the service account secret. So I'll copy this. Okay, and coming back here, let us create a secret sec.yml, paste it here. Now here, if you look closely, the service account name is different, right? We have created service account named Jenkins. Let me just confirm the name. If I go back, we can see we have created a service account named Jenkins, right? So there will be, name will be Jenkins, and this name is the secret name, so that you can change also, you can leave it as it is. Okay, so let us save this and let us apply 𝗘𝗲𝗃𝗏 apply-f. Then we have sec, right? And here, if you notice one thing, let me open this new page. Here the web apps namespace is not mentioned. So in that case, we still need to make sure that whatever resource we are creating, it should be created inside the web apps namespace, right? So I can make sure by -n, then web apps. That means this resource that we are creating, the secret, it's going to be created inside namespace named web apps. Okay, click enter. Now, so these things are created. If I run _get all -n web apps. So as of now, no specific resource we have created. We have just created like service account, secret, and all those things, right? Now, secret we have created, but we still need to get the token. How do we get it? So we can type the command _kubectl describe secret. Name of the secret was this one, my secret name. Okay, copy that, paste here, and here -n web apps, because this secret is existing inside a namespace, this one, correct? Click enter. Now you see this whole information we got, out of which this is most important, token. So we will copy this token and let us save it somewhere. So I'm going to save this here. Okay, now this part like this is done from our Kubernetes site, right? So let us go back to our Jenkins and dashboard. Now what we need to do, we need to create the CD pipeline, correct? So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a dummy first, and then I'm going to automate. For automation, I'm going to add that pipeline inside a repository. Okay, so let me create a dummy one first. Dummy kind will be pipeline. Click on OK. and let's create hello world first. Okay. And let us configure it one by one. Okay, so I'm going to have two stages. Copy this. First stage that I want to have is going to be named as deploy to Kubernetes. Okay, and for writing the commands here, we can take help with the pipeline syntax that we can click on here, and here you will find some option as Kubernetes CLI or something like that. You can see this option, configure Kubernetes CLI, right? Click on that. Credentials. So let us add a credentials. Click on Jenkins. Here we will select the kind as secret text, and in secret text we are going to add the token that we have created for the service account. So let me copy that, paste it here, and ID can be like something K8 token, or I think you can write, that is like completely up to you. Copy that and save this. Now we have created the token, so we can select it now, right? Now Kubernetes API's endpoint, so that we can get if we go to cluster overview. Here you see API service endpoint, so copy that and we can paste it. Where is it? Yeah, here. Talking about cluster name, so that also we can get here. We have the cluster name EKS-1. Copy that and paste here in cluster name. Namespace, we have that web apps, right? And these are the only thing that we need to configure. Then directly click on generate script. Now we have a block created. We can write our commands inside this block. So I will add it here and let me correct it. Okay. Now we can run the command like sh kubectl apply -f and the file. So if I go to main branch, the file name is, one second, file name is this one, right? So I will copy the file name, put it here. Okay. After that I want to make, because these are like 11 microservices, so they are going to take some time to get started. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to before we run the next command, we are going to put sleep 60 for 60 seconds. Like this stage will be in like pending state, and after that it will move to next stage. So next stage that I want to keep is going to be verify deployment. Okay, and here also what we are going to write, we are going to use the same block, copy that, paste it here. Okay, remove this and this will be here, and here I can type the command as such kubectl get all in namespace web apps, right? So here what it's going to do, it's going to fetch the whatever like resources are created within this namespace. We can see that in that we'll be able to see the service also, which will be having the URL for accessing the application. Okay, so what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy all these things, cut it, and here I'm going to create a file, config, create new file, name will be Jenkins file, and we'll paste the content here. Now this is the pipeline that we are going to use for deployment. Okay, commit the changes. Okay, and dummy I can just delete it. Can open. You can see automatically a pipeline got created, right? If I open this, you can see it is in pending like running status. So now you can see all these multiple like total 11 like microservice like deployment service is going to be getting created. And you can see here sleeping for 1 minute. That means, as I said, before we get the details of all the like resources created, because there are multiple resources, it's going to take some time, right? For that I have just put sleeping for 1 minute or sleeping for 60 seconds. Okay, so once this is completed, we'll be having the URL to access our application. Okay, and let's wait for this. Okay, meanwhile make sure to subscribe to the channel's team. You can just support us by just that. Okay, I don't know why this 60 seconds seems longer than that. Okay, okay, 49 seconds. Okay, let's wait for the one thing that you have noticed, automatically as soon as we added this file, Jenkins file, in our branch, Jenkins picked up immediately. Okay, Okay, some issue is there. Cannot use resources. Okay, let me do one thing. Let me edit the pipeline first. Okay, let me remove this. Instead of getting all, we can type svc. Let me remove 𝗘𝗿𝗃𝗍 because I don't want to wait 60 more. So as soon as I run this command, automatically pipeline will be triggered. Okay, that is the best part of the webhook. Okay, so I have saved this, and coming back here, if I refresh the page, we should be able to see. You can see it is in pending state. That means it's going to get started within few seconds. So let's wait for this. Let me refresh again. Okay, finished waiting. So yeah, and now it is successful. If I open this, if I scroll down, you can see we have received the svc files, right? Svc information, out of which for front-end external we have this. There are two front-end you might be able to see. The one is like node port type, which can provide us the port on which we can access our application. Second is front-end external, which is using load balancer service type. So with load balancer we can get the actual URL of the application. Okay, so let us try to access it. I hope this works fine. Let me put it here, and let's wait. So since we are running it for the first time, it may take few seconds to get up and run. Okay, and yeah, amazing, this is working fine, right? And everything is working fine. This is good. And you can see all the separate components, whatever, like we have like 11 microservice components we have deployed, so everything is working fine now, right? And this is also looking amazing. We have 11 microservices component which we are using for CI build, right? And separate we have one build for CD, for deployment of the application. So this is amazing, and I hope this was fine. And if you loved it, then make sure to give it a like, and also support us by subscribing to the channels. So team, once deployment and everything is successful, you can plan to delete the cluster, right? For that, you can run the command EKS delete cluster, and then name --name. Cluster name in our case is EKS-1, right? And region also you need to put. So in my case, region is AP-South-1, right? Click enter, and you can see it will start deleting the clusters. This will take few seconds or few minutes, but yeah, this is the process that you can delete the cluster. Okay, so do not forget to delete the cluster, and I hope this video was really useful for you. If so, make sure to give it a like, and if you are new on the channel, make sure to subscribe. And thanks for all the support. I'm really thankful to you guys. Okay, so yeah, thanks for watching. Have a nice day.